I'm surprised you're not already attending meetings.
Shut up. Looks like we're live, Dan.
I think we are live. All right, let's do this. Let's do this.
Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, as always, to SEO and IPA. It's the fun weekly hangout about inbound marketing, entrepreneurship, and more. As always, I'm Daniel Barrett from Two Friendly Nerds. That's TWOFriendlyNerds.com, world's friendliest web design and internet marketing company. And with me is, as always, the brains behind the operation, proud descendant of a long line of salt-of-the-earth link farmers. It's Patti DeLessio from reinventinteractive.com. Patti, how are you today? You're wonderful as always.
I am terrific. I just realized my name is not at the bottom of the screen. We'll have to fix that. No, I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah.
How are you? Did you have a nice long weekend?
No? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. No, my wife's family had a Memorial Day sort of family reunion, so there's a whole ton of Vietnamese people to hang out with, and they make really awesome Vietnamese food, which is delicious. And there's like a dizzying amount of babies and people who are about to have babies. I think 4 of her cousins are pregnant and are all due around the same time. So it's really like the biological clock went off somewhere, and they all heard it. So it was great. It was a fun weekend. It was a busy weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it was like fun, but you're out doing stuff, so it's not exactly relaxing per se. But it was a pretty good time. What about yourself?
Terrific. We were at the boat. We were on the hook and had a great time. It was great. The boat's a little bit having some major issues right now, which is always expensive.
Yeah, like what? Like manic depression, or what kind of issues?
No, it's something broke. We ended up having to take a 3-hour trip back at 6 knots, and it was like a sailboat. It was on one engine. It was very little traumatic for us boaters this weekend. But we all got home safely. Everything's going to be fine, and hopefully we'll get the boat fixed soon. But
wow, traumatic boat event. That sucks.
Yeah, well, it could have been more traumatic, but yeah, it was a long afternoon on Monday getting back to our dock. But it'll be fine. Hopefully it'll be fine. They can fix it.
I was working on a boat pun that whole time, and I really got nothing. I think the closest I got was, if something happened, you'd really be missing your mast, or I don't know. That's like all I got, and I didn't finish it. So I'm going to just let that out there for you folks. Feel free to pick that up if you want.
Beer.
Oh yeah. Well, I do have a beer. So I'll tell you what. Why don't you talk about your beer, and I'm going to go grab my beer from the mini fridge, and then I'll be back. All right. So you take it over. You've got the reins.
I got the reins.
You got the reins. Here we go.
You're going to come back with actual beer this time, though, right? Oh, he left me. Okay, so this one I'm actually tasting live today. I've never had this one before. This came from a neighbor friend, but it's local to me here in PA. It's by Lancaster Brewing Company. You ever heard of Lancaster Brewing Company?
No, I've heard of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so this is called Hop Buggy.
I like the name.
Yeah, all Amishy. Yeah, see, you got the Amish card buggy.
Do Amish people drink beer?
I don't know.
I would assume not, but maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so they say it's brewed with Amish ground rye, wheat, and oats. So, yeah. And it's a hopped amber is the kind here, and it's only 5.8% alcohol, which is pretty low. And I can smell the rye. Are you into rye beers?
Yeah. I haven't had a ton of those, I don't think, but I do.
Yeah.
There's that the Ruthless Rye that comes out seasonally. You know that one? It's like a fall Sierra Nevada, maybe. But I like that one mostly because I like the bottle. But
Yeah, no, I remember you and I had that Sierra Nevada rye beer. It was good.
Yeah.
This is good. It's a lot more rye than I thought. It's tasty. Cheers.
Yeah.
This one. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure what the rating is. I'll do that while you tell us about what you have.
Okay. I have a beer that I picked out at random from my local liquor store, which is now down the block from my new office. So I picked up the Just Summer Wheat Ale from the Just Beer Project.
Ooh, I don't know this.
I don't know it either.
Yay.
Just Beer Project is a craft beer company located in Burlington, Vermont. And yeah, it's a wheat ale. It's 4.2. I'm expecting it to be weedy, but we will see. Let's see just how weedy it is.
All right, and how is it?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, I like that. It's it's a pretty mild. I think like summer beers tend to really try to just be beers that you can drink a fair amount of, and they're not super strong or overpowering. And this is definitely that. It's mild. You get a little bit of that citrusy stuff in there, but it's really just pretty straightforward, which I like actually. So I could definitely drink those. It'd be a good beer to kind of drink outside.
Well, I like it, and that's also from Burlington, Vermont. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, yours isn't rated. I think it's relatively new, maybe. Not sure.
Okay.
And, I have an 80 on the Lancaster Hop Buggy.
You got an 80. Okay.
So, not bad. It's really not bad. It's a funny story about how I got this beer. We did a favor for one of our neighbors, and in return, he sent one of his 6-year-old twin girls over with 2 bottles of beer and showed hand them over. We're like, oh, thanks.
Cool. There you go.
Yeah. So that's how that went. So we have kind of a very scary, creepy topic to talk about today.
Yes. So, yeah. Let me do the pitch, and then I'm gonna bring it to you because you were the one that sent me this article originally. So, as always, by the way, and I want to put this out there if you're watching this right now, you can post questions and answers on the Google Plus Events page, and we will see them in our little screens here, and we'll be able to answer your questions on the air. So, or maybe we can't because it says it's disabled. Maybe that is what's happening. Let me go enable that. But in any case, sooner or later you will be able to do that. So if you have questions that you want us to answer on the air, please let us know by pasting in that page there. I thought I enabled it, but now I can't. So sorry, people, I can't do that this week. But you can do it next week. And then, yeah, and as always, if you're on Google Plus as well, or you got this link on twofriendlynerds.com/hangout, you can get the link to this week's article, which I will put up on the screen in a moment. So this week, we are talking about the legal ramifications of search engine optimization, primarily because we saw an article this week in Search Engine Land about an SEO company being sued by their client for using unethical SEO practices, or basically violating Google's policies.
Yes.
The story, just to kind of give you the quick and dirty version, the story is that this company, which is Sekali and Stewart, I'm going to say, Sekali and Stewart.
Yeah.
They sued an SEO company called the Rainmaker Institute, basically alleging that the Rainmaker Institute used link farming, or basically just made a whole bunch of like really worthless links back to this company's website, and then kind of proceeded to take money for these services even though they weren't really doing anything else, and they knew, and here's where the negligence is being alleged here, right? They knew that this was bad for them, and they did it anyway. The interesting piece of this, I thought, was that the company is not actually alleging that they were damaged by this practice. They're not saying that their ranks suffered or anything. They're just saying that this was done. This company knew it was against Google's guidelines, and they did it anyway, and therefore there's negligence involved, and they're being sued. So the question now becomes, right, and Patti, this is how you phrased this to me earlier today when we were talking about this. The phrase the issue becomes, how do you not get sued for doing SEO? And I know this is going to affect Patti. It's going to primarily affect you because you use a lot of link farming, a lot of link buying, a lot of spam comments.
Oh,
you know, but no, you know, obviously I joke, but the question remains, because I think to a lot of people, staying on top of Google's ever-changing guidelines is kind of a full-time job, and it is easy for me to, you know, imagine a situation in which I'm doing something that's no longer best practices, but I kind of just missed that memo, right? Because there's no centralized sort of mailing list that we're all on or whatever. So, being sued for SEO. It's an interesting question. So why don't we talk about, Patti, your sort of your feelings about this, your insights into it, and then we can talk a little bit about how we as online marketers can mitigate our risk a little bit, right? Obviously, people can sue you for whatever they want, but there are things we can do to make sure that we're on top of things and that we are, as you put it, CYAing, right? Covering our tuckuses as best we can. So why don't we talk about, first of all, your kind of reaction to the article? Like, what did you think when you read this? Did you, like, you know, stash your gun under the mattress, or, you know, what was your reaction?
yeah. Well, like I said, it was scary. And first of all, we should probably preface and say that no one watching this should interpret anything as legal advice. Right? We're not giving legal advice, so don't sue us.
Okay.
I found this a little bit scary. I think, I have a line in my contracts that I thought would sort of be the bucket to contain this, which is, essentially, Google doesn't give us insights into their algorithms, so I cannot guarantee the outcomes. And I'm very much white hat. I don't claim to do anything super sneaky, black hat, wrong.
Well, why don't you explain the hat thing for people who aren't kind of in that world? What's the whole hat thing about?
Is that not a thing? I think it goes back to Western, right? The black hats were the bad guys, the white hats, So it's implying that you're following the rules as opposed to understanding the rules and working around them and doing what you can to beat the system. And that is, sort of the way SEO began, right, Dan? It was, what can I do to artificially rank within Google for particular terms? And this was done with a lot of just stuffing of metadata and, all that manipulating of the algorithm. So, what is it, 10, 15 years ago, that's what we were doing. But as the algorithm gets updated, it would kind of shove those bad actors out of the way. So, this lawsuit for this article is directly in relation to the Penguin update, right? So the Penguin update is, listen, we're not going to take all these artificial, link farmings. You can't buy links to rank, in SERP. So, and also, can I say, leading up to this call, I did some research where I'm kind of looking around to see, well, how prominent is this? Are SEOs getting sued a lot? Do I need to get, I don't know, an umbrella policy for my business, right, to protect myself and my assets? But I think a lot of people that are suing happen to be lawyers. So it's, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's interesting because they mentioned in this article, and I'll put that article up as well, another case that stems back from 2011, which was a company, like an e-commerce company, that hired someone to work on their site, and then had him build another site, and in the process he was going to get basically part of the payment agreement was that he was going to get a cut of sales through this second site. But they never paid him. They ended up shutting down that site, never paying him, and then going back to the old site. He sued them, and then they countersued him and said that what he had done was deliberately create duplicate content in order to de-rank the old site, or to hurt the old site and drive to this new site, which is kind of bizarre because the whole thing was like, obviously they hired him to create and promote this site.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was like really confusing, and I think it gets to this issue of like, what can you realistically expect someone to be able to do and to know in order to say like, well, he's clearly being negligent, beyond like deliberately destroying this other site or something. I mean, it's like if you create duplicate content, did you do that on purpose? Or it gets into this whole weird like sort of white collar crime thing of like, what did you know, and like when did you know it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the interesting part to this is as SEOs, you're almost sort of working in the same capacity as a lawyer, where you're deciphering the laws that your clients don't understand, but you're to be the expert of and have the domain of knowledge of, and then act within the best coordinates of those rules and regulations, right?
Well, except that our laws are secret.
And we don't know what those are, exactly. And they change and they move, and there's certain outcomes, right? Negative outcomes if you don't play by the rules and you don't. If you get that wrong, you're kind of screwed. So today, these activities are okay. They switch the algorithm, and your entire business can change and be hurt, kind of financially. So there's that. It's really challenging. So I mean, that's really the language. And I can tell you what my line is. I say, because Google and Bing do not disclose their dynamic search algorithms, organic search engine optimization efforts like this cannot guarantee your website ranking on their results pages. So that's
in your contract that you give to your clients. Like everybody signs off on that.
It's an assumption. Yeah, I have it listed as an assumption in my contract.
Of course, the question here, though, is they're not saying they didn't get us results, right? That's not what they're suing about, which is interesting.
Right.
They're not suing because he didn't rank them. They're suing because they said they knew they were doing nothing and they charged us anyway, right? So it's interesting because this gets into, I think this is something I think is really important. I try to be as transparent as possible about what I'm doing with everyone all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So if I have an SEO client, I give them a handout at the beginning of the session, and I say, like, this is our roadmap. This is what we do. I'm thinking specifically for local SEO, right? And it says like month 1, we do X, Y, Z. Month 2, we're doing X, Y, Z, and it lays it out like, I'm doing this to your Google Plus page. I'm building citations in this method, etc. And I think some people don't want to do that because it sort of gives away what you're doing, right? I think some people maybe think theoretically, your client can take this thing and do it themselves, but I'm always like, if you want to do it yourself, you're not my client to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think it also helps because it's saying like, all right, I am doing this and I'm not doing, link buying, etc. And I still just saw this morning, a client was saying, they were wondering why a particular competitor was really powerfully ranking in this one particular keyword. And I mean, like, literally every front page result for this keyword is their competitor, right? So, I looked into it, and they've got a lot of, like, totally legitimate links, right? And there's a lot of reasons that's the case, but I'm also buying, like, direct links from places that are like, buy me links and, like, bid on links and stuff like that. So that's still a thing that happens.
Right.
So I guess I'm not. I think part of it is saying, and if you're watching this and you're hiring people to do SEO, right? And this is sort of the point of the article, where they sort of mention this in the article. It's that taking the effort in the beginning to say, like, how are you doing what you're doing, right? And there's a certain amount of, if I just flat out lie and be like, no, we never buy links, and I buy links in the alleyway, that's negligence, right? That's very clearly negligence, right? Or just or fraud, maybe. I'm not a lawyer, although we've established that SEO people are like lawyers. So clearly my pay grade will be raising soon.
That's right.
So yeah. how do you, Patty? How do you stay on top of like what's allowed and what's not, like what's legit and what's not in terms of SEO? Are there like sort of places that you routinely return to and sort of to, check on that stuff?
Yeah, there's a handful of experts that I follow that when they speak I really pay attention to. You know, Matt Cutts is clearly the biggest, and when he makes a statement, it's written about pretty quickly, and it's, you know, I'm kind of in that circle of SEO folk, right? I also carve out time every week. So every Friday morning I kind of have my kind of research moments. So if I'm not getting, you know, a flag in between, you know, I've got my Google alerts all set up. But if not, otherwise I know that I have this 2-hour window on Friday mornings where I just sit and listen to audio. I listen to my Whiteboard Fridays. I listen to my kind of, you know, Moz advisors, and you know, I kind of pay attention. I keep that up. I actually do that every week. I put aside that time to stay on top of it, and I tell my clients that too. I'm like, listen, this is always changing. Things are always moving. You know, SEO is not a kind of a one and done. You know, it's what's working over time. Okay, what stopped working? What can we try again? It's a lot of testing. So yeah, I mean, what do you do? Do you put aside time? Do you read particular?
Yeah, I read tea leaves.
Yeah.
And turtle bones. No, you know, yeah, it's the same kind of thing. You know, the way I consume my SEO-related media is basically through newsreaders. I mean, I use Feedly. If you're out there, you know, Feedly.com is a really good one. Sort of replaced Google Reader when it came out. And I have an SEO tag in there that's just a couple, you know, sort of valuable blogs. You know, Search Engine Journal, which we linked to today, is pretty good. And then the Moz stuff and people like Matt Cutts, etc. And I just kind of watch that space. You know, it's interesting because I don't really read directly the Google materials on all this stuff. I usually rely on people to digest it for me at least a little bit. So that might not be the best move, right? Maybe I should be in there more and sort of getting a sense of that. You know, I think for me, a lot of the most obvious things are obvious, right? Like the things like buying links, and, you know, if it feels weird to me, I don't do it. Right. There are a number of borderline stuff, what's sometimes referred to as gray hat stuff, where it's kind of like, yeah. So it's like if I start a Blogspot blog and just link it to my thing, is that bad? And it's like, well, it's not really like great. It's not horrible. Yeah. So, you know, I really tend to focus with my clients on just on-page optimization and on content stuff, which doesn't really, I think, put me in that realm. But, you know, in terms of legal trouble, you know, like I'm an LLC, you're like a giant corporation, I think, right? You're an international multi-conglomerate or whatever you organize yourself as.
I'm an Inc. I'm incorporated.
Yeah, you're like the GlaxoSmithKline of SEO, basically. But, you know, partially it's that, you know, that partially that protects my personal assets, right? But I really think that if I'm totally upfront with people, and yeah, you have a little CYA, little clause in your contract, and you're upfront and transparent, I let people cancel at any time, right? So I'm like, if you ever down my thing, cancel the project, right? So I think that to a large extent, that's going to cover me, and then I just kind of do my due diligence as much as I can.
I've had some issues, Dan, honestly, in full disclosure. I've had issues where the way my billing goes, I'm sort of getting paid after the fact as opposed to upfront. So I'm billing at the end of the month, and I'm, you know, reporting along with an invoice, sort of a deal. You know, and I've had people tell me too late that they're kind of canceling, and then there's been like a billing issue or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess you'll always have those sorts of things. I'm thinking of re-racking that a little bit in my favor.
Yeah, I always bill at the beginning of the month for the following month, right? So the project starts when I get my first payment.
Yeah.
always, right? So that helps for sure.
Yeah.
But I think really the lesson is like if someone wants to steal money from me or someone wants to sue me, they're going to do it, right? It's kind of like there's a lot of stuff we could do to really protect ourselves, but if I'm doing that stuff, I'm not doing a million other things I should be doing and can be doing, right? So to a certain extent, I think as long as you're doing your best and you're really, you're doing the minimum things you're supposed to do to cover yourself, right? Like having an LLC. If you're out there doing an SEO, you should get an LLC just to be sure. You have some business insurance. I do. I have some business insurance.
Yeah.
Which I got for like a couple $100 a year, right? So it's really not that big a deal. And then,
that's actually great advice. I'm adding it to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because the stuff that they asked me when I got my business insurance was like, do you store client data and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of data stuff that goes involved. So it's kind of like, if I have all my clients' passwords and I get hacked because I didn't protect my computer and all that stuff gets stolen, so those things do come into play. I mean, they asked me if I had stuff on site, like servers and stuff on site, which I don't. So, but for like a couple $100 a year, I insured my entire business, kind of just like protect myself to a minimum amount just in case something happens, and then limit my liability with an LLC, and that's really all you can do. And then beyond that, it's kind of like SEO in general. It's like you can't do everything obsessed about what Google's going to do to you or what someone else is going to do to you. You just have to do the best job you can, and then when you make a ton of money, then you can worry about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But for most people, I'm kind of like, if you want to take my $10, go for it. Yeah.
Right. Do you do any non-disclosures at all, Dan? I mean, you don't have a proprietary process that...
No.
No?
I don't. Yeah, I've never done that. I've never been asked to sign an NDA or anything.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, the stuff that I do for people, I didn't make it up, right? I learned how to do it from other people, and it's out there on the internet, it's out there on the web, and I think that what makes people come to me or hire me is more about the relationship I have with them and the amount of trust they have with me, and not wanting to do this stuff themselves, right? I mean, it doesn't take long to install a WordPress SEO plugin and figure out how to do it. So, for me, I think that as someone who does SEO, the added value I bring is, it's like this morning, client emailed me and said, hey, this competitor of ours dominates the front page. I'm wondering why that is. Do you think you can help me? Give me some answer, and I can say, this is why, this is what you should be doing, and they have someone on their team. I think that's kind of the advantage. I don't know. I kind of think the days of, having an information product where it's like, my top 10 steps to blasting #1 on Google, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't think that stuff really has much of a future.
Yeah, when I started this, there absolutely firms guarantee you first page of Google. I mean, that was the promise, and there still are SEOs that do that. Of course, they're like, we guarantee you first page for Google for at least one of your keywords, which could be your name.
Yeah.
It could be actual.com. That'll get you.
Purple butts, Indiana, org. EDU 90210 episode.
Exactly. But this I do. I find this a little bit scary. I would not want to be sued by anybody. I would not want to have a relationship go so bad that this resulted. I would not want to give advice that harmed someone else's business or livelihood, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's another topic we should cover, actually, is sort of like relationships with people and how you keep your client relationships really healthy and positive, right?
Yeah. I think it's providing value, over-delivering, being over-communicative, teaching. There's a lot of education that goes along with kind of what I do, because for clients to come to me or people to refer clients to me, there's a gap there, right? There's a misunderstanding as to why it's not performing better than it should be, or why the experience is not good, why I'm not getting those inbound results that I expect, right? So it's okay. This is what I see. This is how I evaluate it. This is the plan to get us there. This is the steps and over time. So it's a lot of teaching, and it's a lot of setting that up. So I think what I've learned is really to explain over and over again what you've done, where the value is, and if you can draw those lines. This has to do with tracking. It kind of gets really granular. Is showing that return on investment. So showing what actions and activities you've taken that result in business leads or, work. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a serious topic today, Dan.
It was. It got dark. It got dark. I had a whole thing about, like, I'm not going back to prison again. Go crazy, but whatever. Well, I'll do it some other time. Next time we talk about SEOs in prison, we'll talk about that, right? Or it could be like, it's like SEAs, right? It'll be like SEAs, right? So it's like, oh, yeah, right? I got that. Any other SEO, yeah, SE Outlaw. Oh, that's a great business name, SE Outlaw. Yeah, I don't let Google push me around. I do what I want. Anyway, if you are tuned in halfway through, or you want to catch any of our past episodes, you can get all of them at twofriendlynerds.com/hangout. That's TWO friendlynerds.com/hangout. Soon to be our own website. We'll have that upcoming soon, and soon to be a podcast available on all your favorite podcasting devices and services. We're excited about that as well. You can also head over to YouTube and just Google in the YouTube the SEO and IPA. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Patti D'Alessio from Reinvent Interactive, thank you so much for all your legal advice that you dispensed today. We appreciate it.
Advice. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. And thank you, everybody. As always, have an awesome rest of your week. It's Wednesday. It's almost Friday. You can feel it around the bend. And we will talk to you next week, Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm Daniel Bear from Two Friendly Nerds. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.